Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review Peaky Blinders, Season 1, Episode 2. I know it's been a while since I've gone on from pilot to now this, but really, there's a lot of stuff that I have to see, or I need to see, around this time period. So, going on into these episodes, there's also a lot of stuff that I'm seeing for the very first time. And so I want to get those out of the way before doing anything else. Just be like, hey, I've never seen this movie before. Let's see it now. Whether it's going to be a good movie, whether it's going to be a bad movie, or an indifferent, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to finally say that I can go on and see a certain number of movies because I have the option now to just be able to watch whatever I want, finally. So there's still some movies I need to get to. So speaking of which, because I saw In the Mouth of Madness, which actually has Sam Neill from the show in that movie. I'm not promoting or saying for people, oh, go and check that out. I don't do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. But I just thought that it was so cool that film that has this like Evil Dead kind of style. But anyways, and plus it's a John Carpenter film. So going into this episode, we have a very Sam Neill focused episode, or Inspector Chester episode. It's kind of nice that this episode is everything has a purpose in this show. Everything is to be a chess move, and we won't realize it till the further and further we go along in this show what the chess move really is. I like that. I think that that's really clever, but I also feel like the funny thing about this episode is I would go on and say that this episode feels much more slowed down than the pilot episode, but also with saying that, we don't have Thomas when he's talking to Inspector Chester in this episode. He doesn't beat around the bush. He goes on and he tells him, he demands to him what he wants, and so that way Inspector Chester can go on and get what he is to want out of this deal with talking to Thomas. So there is I love this strategy of this show. I love that we have it to where these small things are to add up eventually, and so we have a Ida Freddy relationship thing going on in this episode, so to speak. And so I like how we go on to that, how there's kind of this chase around to try to find out these answers and so on and so forth with these characters. And we are to also just kind of go on and kind of figure out what the heck Thomas has us up his sleeve for this episode. So that's kind of the interesting thing overall about this show. So I think that's all that I've really got for this one, because it feels like there's a very small amount of things kind of going on here. But yeah, so I think it's about that time to just go into spoilers. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about Peaky Blinders, or really just at the end of the day, you could go out of your way to I'm kind of interested in seeing how Tom Hardy is eventually going to be plopped into this show, and I'm sure it's probably yeah, that's seasons from now. Well, of course, because you always have to have it where the one character that you're most interested in going into a show for, that's a character that's that's in season 85 and you're on season 1 and you're well, crap, well, that sucks. So I feel like that's always how it is for a lot of shows, and so yeah, because I think I've already said that twice now about Tom Hardy. I don't know, we'll go out of our way to say that it's about that time yet again. Let's just go into that double five. Let's go and otherwise say that it is about a time to spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time we get to spoil this show, as I always confuse it with the movie. So This has this movie kind of feel, as if you're watching a film, and so that's what I like about it. It doesn't have that show kind of visuals, because there is a difference, and a lot of people probably won't realize that. But anyways, so we go on into this episode, and we of course have Chester, Inspector Chester, who's kind of riding on his horse, making his way to all these detectives, and he's going on and he's telling everybody, it's like, well, hey, um, let's try to get to a point where we can have it before last night's beer becomes this morning's pee or whiz and wake the devil up. Let's go on and let's get all these guys and arrest all of them and like kind of like get them with their pants down, so to speak. Like get them unprepared so that way we go on and we find out a number of things about these people, or we can arrest these people easily because blah 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 blah. So Inspector Chester is going on and looking through and on his horse going and having everybody just kind of check things out. So in the midst of all this, we have Ida and Freddy who are realizing that the Kappas are coming. And so Freddy is to now have to vamoose and disappear. And so Freddy is telling Ida that he's going to go on and have to leave town for a couple days. So we have Ida who is to go on and supposedly take some iron tablets that I guess she is to have gotten a prescription for. So we then find out later on in the episode, while Aunt Paula is going on and talking with Ida, that she's realized that this girl's melon's chest has gotten a little bigger by her kind of like pressing, just really just touching this woman, and it's like like it seems like you've gotten a little bigger, let's just say. So we have Aunt Polly realizing that Ida is pregnant, and now she wants to know who, of course, the father is. And so, of course, we have Ida who's not wanting to tell anybody because she realizes that if she goes on and tells who the father is, that these guys will go, like her Shelby family will go on and kill this man. And so, and I know there's a setup before all this, but I'll get to that for a second. Let me kind of get this out of the way. So we have Thomas, who is to make his way to speak with Aunt Polly to find out that Ida is pregnant. And so Ida is to be at this movie theater, and so Thomas is going to this movie theater and now forcing, of course, Ida to tell who exactly the guy is. And we also have Aunt Paula, who is telling Ida that it's like, well, like this guy, whoever he is, better show up for this kid, better be there for this child. And we have Ida who's like, well, of course he's going to be. It's just that he's out of town right now. So we go on into this episode, and so Thomas is threatening Ida, like, hey, like, tell me who it is. And so we, of course, go on and have Ida reveal that it's Freddie Thorne. And so we go on and we have Thomas, who is just supposed to deliver a message to Freddie saying that, hey, you better get your to kind of do something with this pregnancy and whatever, and kind of like tell us what you're gonna do, so we can either kill you or we can have you marry Ida right away. So, and Thomas doesn't even want to send this message. We have it where Thomas is telling Aunt Polly, it's like, well, just tell her that he ran off to America or he ran off to Russia or something, because Thomas probably just wants to kill Freddie and have Ida think that he just ran off on her. But it seems that Aunt Paula is realizing that Freddie could be a good man for Ida, and that they can get married and do all this good and nice and stuff and whatever. So later on, we have Freddy, who is to make his way back into town after hearing after getting this message, and so he goes on and is to immediately propose to Ida, whipping out this ring. And it's like, yeah, let's go and let's get married right now, because like to just kind of cement this relationship, because this couple really does love one another. And we have Ida, who's like, well, like, shouldn't we not do this like right now, because if anything you can get killed and all this kind of stuff. And like we have it at one point where they're thinking about running away together, and Freddy's like, no, I'm not afraid of your family, I want us to get married. So he's like, Freddy is doing the right thing here, and I like that. Plus also Freddy is going on and just saying like, hey, like, I love this woman and no one else is going to tell me different. So now let's back up a little bit. So we have Thomas and the Shelby family. We have like we have Arthur, and we have just a number of like Shelby people, all going to drive to meet up with the Lee family, who of course one of the members is Johnny Dogs. And so we have Thomas, who is to see that we of course have I just said his name, Johnny Dogs, who has a horse, a white horse, to give to Thomas. So we have these two characters that are going and basically flipping these coins to see if, like, what's going to happen out of all this. Whether or not they're going to trade this car for some horse. And when it seems Arthur is to realize that, oh my god, are you going to trade this horse for this car? Like, are you kidding me? Like, we just drove all the way here, and we have it where Thomas is just like, well, no, like, I won, so if anything, Johnny is just going to drive this car for a little bit, and like as a joke to make you guys think that like I really traded a car for a horse. So eventually we have this horse in hand here, and we end up finding out that this horse is a lemon. That it seems that this horse is to, the longer and longer the Shelbys have it, they realize that this horse is going to have to get shot and get killed, and because there's something wrong with it. And it's like, okay, so these guys were to go on and give us a horse that is going to get killed. And it is kind of interesting because Thomas was to go on, and after he was to go and get this horse, we had a couple of the Lee family laughing. And Thomas is like, hey, were you laughing at me? And so all of a sudden they're like, hey man, like the deal is struck, like, hey, everything's fine. But then Thomas just goes and beats the out of the Lee family and then leaves. So we also had the inspector, while he was going through, he also has a moment where he talks to Aunt Polly. And I know I'm kind of jumbling all over the place, but this is what it is. So Inspector Chester goes on and is to talk to Aunt Polly, and is to have at one point where he like kind of tosses her against this one spot, and she like gets intimate with Inspector Chester. She's like, oh, that isn't what you wanted? Normally when somebody tosses me against something, I immediately think that they want some kind of intimacy or something. So we go on and we have Inspector Chester that is telling Aunt Polly that she wants a meeting at the Licky tea room with Thomas, who is to be, of course, the real leader of this family. And so Inspector Chester wants a word with him. So because really there's a bunch of other like side dialogue, but it kind of like means nothing really to me. So we have it where Inspector Chester is going on and meeting with, of course, Thomas in the Lucky Tea room. And so we go on here and have them both sit down, and Thomas is telling Inspector Chester that he is to, of course, have these guns, and he's willing to make demands to trade with this inspector, or otherwise he's going to go and try and sell these guns at Belfast somewhere, and the inspector will never go and find these guns and realize that this guy is going to go on and have to work with Thomas to kind of make it so that there's going to be some kind of transaction happening, so that way the inspector gets what he wants. So we go on, and after that whole arrangement here, we have it where Thomas is talking to his uncle, Charlie Strong, and we have Charlie, who has a bullet with Thomas's name on it from the Lees, and we also have Charlie who's bringing up the guns, and Thomas is like, hey, don't bring up the guns here. Like, if anybody finds out about this, like it'll... And Charlie is telling Thomas, it's like, do you just want an all-out war? Is that what you want? Like, you've already been in one war. Like, now do you just want another? Like, so... And we start to have Thomas, who's starting to have nightmares about the wars. And we start to see that he's kind of waking up in a sweat, just kind of remembering about all these wars. And so I'm like, I'm waiting for Thomas to just lose his mind at some point in this story. So we have at one point where Thomas and Grace, we have Thomas who's kind of walking this horse along, and because he had just gotten it, and so Grace is kind of tossing out this bucket of, I don't know exactly what. Could that, like, I think that might be like spit or something like that. So we have Grace tossing this out, and Thomas is to see Grace, and so they start talking, and so Thomas is talking to Grace about her singing and how Grace wants to sing, and so she makes a bargain with Thomas that once a week on, I guess, Saturdays, that she'll go on and be able to sing at this bar. And because Grace is to realize that Thomas technically probably does like the singing, and so might as well just have this go on anyways. And Thomas likes the confidence on Grace because the actual bar owner would never say anything to Thomas. So Thomas, because he likes the cut of Grace's jib, so to speak, is wanting to take Grace to this place and have her like wear something nice. So we go on and have Grace going and telling Inspector Chester at this opera that she's going to go on and need a certain kind of amount of money to really impress Thomas with a dress that she's going to pick out. And she's going on and just kind of feeding Chester this information, so on and so forth. And we have Chester, who's kind of deputizing Grace to be involved in all of this, because I guess like she was to be just a person that was just kind of sifting out information, but it seems that more and more she's really getting involved in this case. So, which I think is kind of really interesting for this show, how we go on and we have a character that is really undercover, and we're having these like secret meetings between these characters. I think that is really kind of interesting how we kind of have like this like undercover operative, because I would like to see how like we really have like the early stages of undercover work in like that is just kind of done like anywhere, uh, just to kind of see how like they would come up with like the very first undercover operative or whatever. Um, but it's also kind of interesting where Thomas was talking to Grace and was saying that he knows some guys from Ireland, and they have never heard of this girl before that had supposedly worked at this bar. So Thomas realizes that this girl is to not be who she says she is. But we have Thomas saying to Grace, it's like, well, you probably had a kid or something, right? Like, there's a whole reason why, like, you left and you ran away from where you ran away from. And Grace is like, yeah. It's like, no, she's just a spy. She's just an undercover operative. So, so we go on here and we, is there anything left that I have to talk about? Yeah. So we of course go on and we have Billy Kimber. Or no, wait, let's backpedal a little bit more before that. Like that seems to be like something we can reserve for the end. So we have Thomas after Inspector Chester is to go on and like go through this environment and inspect everybody because he's an inspector. We have Thomas deciding to go and have everybody go on and take these pictures of the king and burn them. Because Thomas is to go on and say that Thomas was to fight in all these wars and was a war hero and so on and so forth. For all of a sudden, this inspector to kind of come through and not trust the people of this town, and how Thomas doesn't like that, and how like they fought for the king, but like what good is it if like the king doesn't really trust them, kind of thing. So we have them going on, and I'm hugely paraphrasing for that moment, so my apologies. But we go on and we have it where, of course, this inspector is writing this story, and we have Churchill who calls Inspector Chester saying like, "Hey, did you know there's a story going on about the burning of the king pictures?" Inspector Chester's like, "No, but I'll go on and I'll arrest these people." And so Chester is going on and saying like, "You'll do nothing of it because there's going to be consistent trials, consistent reports going on about the burning of these king pictures. So like, stop it. Like, we can't go on and have the king's name be like run through the mud like that." So we push on here, and so I'm cause like heaven forbid we have anything else that I need to cover in this episode. So I think that's when I can get to Kimber now. So we go on and we have Thomas who's at this bar, and all of a sudden we have, of course, Billy Kimber that arrives, and I think they call him Mr. Kimber. So we have, of course, Kimber arriving, mentioning about Thomas going on and cheating with these horse races, and so this guy is saying that Thomas is probably going to lose an arm because of that, because of the shenanigans that he's pulling, cheating on these horse races, yada yada yada. So Thomas is going on and like redirecting or kind of misdirecting or something like that, to have Kimber focus on something else instead. Going on and having Thomas mention, it's like, well, hey, like I realize, Mr. Kimber, that you really hate the Lee family, and also so do we. We've had a disagreement with them lately, and that has caused them to lose a horse in the progress. or the process of that. And so Thomas is now wanting for Mr. Kimber and him to join up together to fight this Lee family. And then Arthur, once Kimber is to leave, Arthur is to realize, oh my god, like, you went on to just attack Mr. Lee's family just for this moment. And Thomas was like, yeah. So I'm like, oh my god, like, yeah, there's like so many like chess piece maneuvers, and it's kind of funny. So it makes everything like a valuable thing, where it doesn't feel like everything is to just be nothing in this show or just to be a filler of time altogether, because really it has some importance somewhere down the road. So with that said, I think I'm going to just get out of here. I know this is probably a really quick review compared to some other stuff that I do. Let me know in the comments below how you feel about the show, how you feel about everything, how you just feel about life. I don't know, whatever. Just random whatever. But at the end of the day, hopefully I can keep coming back to this. I'm sorry if anybody was just like, man, when is he going to get another one of these out? Because there's a lot of times where I just do a lot of one-off reviews, videos, whatever. And I hope people can understand that. Because I'm just going to keep popping out whatever I just feel like for that day. And a lot of people might get annoyed with that. But when really looking at it, there's so much content on the channel. If there isn't something out via XYZ, whatever, there's plenty of other stuff to see. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.